Bonsoir tout le monde, c'est Francisca. Bienvenue dans un nouveau numéro qui j'en sais. Jeudi à dans City of Miramar. Nous allons recevoir Alexandra Davis qui est Vice Mayor City of Miramar. Nous allons regarder qui j'en sais pour lui le défini, qui côté le sorti et qui j'en sais pour lui jusqu'à maintenant. Qui j'en sais? Hi, how are you? How are you today?
I'm great. How are you?
I'm good, thank you.
Good.
Can you talk a little bit about yourself, please?
Well, my name is Vice Mayor Alexandra P. Davis. I'm the Vice Mayor here in the city of Miramar. My background, actually, I was born in London, but raised partly in Jamaica, in Kingston. And I have, I guess, a sister and a son who's over 30 now. He's a big guy. Raised him as a single parent. I've been in politics now for over 10 years or so. But prior to that, I worked in county government. So I've been always a public servant working in government.
All right.
Now I'm here.
What inspired you to pursue a career in public service and ultimately become vice mayor?
Yeah, so being an immigrant and coming to this country over 30 years ago, when I moved to Miramar, for example, it was a sleepy Italian town, not too much diversity. And then it was after Hurricane Andrew in the 1990s, the early 90s, that we started to have an influx of more Hispanics and more Blacks. And then I decided to help with an election because there was a gentleman who was Jamaican descent and he was going to be the first Jamaican running for office in Miramar, and I was very intrigued with that. And so I decided to support him. And that's how I got my first taste of politics, by actually helping someone get elected. And then I decided later on that I also wanted to make a difference and being in politics, and ran and won in 2010.
What are some of challenges you faced as a Black woman Jamaican American leader, and how have you overcome them?
I guess initially, as you know, women, we are not as recognized as being strong leaders. Politics is mainly a man's world. You know, there's not that many women politicians. And so you have to have a certain amount of self-confidence. And with my experience having been in government all my life in different roles, when I got into government here in the US, I worked for the environmental department in Miami-Dade County. I worked for animal control. I worked for solid waste. So I had a good idea of governing. And so when I decided to run for office, I ran because I felt the need to have more diversity and more programming that looked like the people in the city. So whether we have a Caribbean event, or like we just recently had our Haitian Heritage event, all those things I thought were missing, and I decided to run to represent the community.
Can you share some of the key initiatives or projects you have implemented to benefit your community?
So one of the ones that I'm really proud of is making sure that all of our police officers are equipped with body-worn cameras. It's important that whenever we're stopped, we're mainly a community of Black and brown folks, whether we're from the Caribbean or the Hispanic areas of the world. We want to make sure that whenever we're stopped by a police officer, it's recorded. It's recorded for their benefit and our benefit, so that if something should happen, we can look at the tapes and know what took place. So I was proud to implement the body-worn cameras on our police officers in 2019. Prior to that, I established a youth apprenticeship program. The youth apprenticeship program is for young people between the ages of 18 to 26 who are not going to college and that would otherwise probably get into trouble. We hire them and teach them a trade. And so within the city itself, we have, for example, our own automotive repair department, and we have youth that learn the trade of automotive repair. We produce our own water, so we have a water treatment plant, and we have people there that we train. And as an apprentice, they get certified and learn that trade. So it's important that we engage our community, making sure that young people have a job that pays well and a career.
What initiatives or policies have you championed to address issues such as racial equity, gender equality, and immigrant rights within your community?
Yeah, so just recently, in fact, about a year or two ago, I implemented a police social worker. Again, it's important that as a Black and Brown community, that we have someone who is not part of necessarily the file and rank of the police, but is a social worker who can go out on calls, especially when it comes to mental illness, homelessness, things that would not necessarily require the heavy hand of the law, but we have a police social worker. So that's good for the community at large and to help with the social ills. In terms of immigrants, recently I had teamed up with FLIC, which is an Florida immigrant organization, to be able to issue community IDs to folks who were not necessarily legal in the country, but needed to have some form of ID in case they were stopped by police, or if they wanted to use certain resources and you just don't have an ID. And as simple as picking up your kids from school, sometimes you may need an ID to show if you're going into certain gated communities. So this community ID was very helpful. And folks came and they signed up and got some kind of ID to bring them out of the shadows because they couldn't get the regular driver's license or Florida IDs. So I was proud of that initiative. Since then, we haven't been able to continue because of some laws that the governor has signed that government entities cannot get involved in issuing community IDs. So it can still be issued, but it has to be done by nonprofits who will issue those. And some of the other, you mentioned, what were the other? You said immigrants, social issues,
gender equality, racial equity, and immigrants' rights within your community.
Yeah, those are the two main ones in terms of immigrants trying to make sure that they get the resources they need to be able to live comfortably as much as possible here, and also with racial equality and things to do with racial profiling and things of that nature. You want to make sure that because we have those body cameras, we can see what's happening. Also, to ensure economically that Black-owned businesses get a seat at the table. And so what we've done in the city, we did a disparity study that showed that Black and Brown companies were not getting contracts with the city. And so we decided that we were going to have a directory of Black businesses, ensure that when contractors come into the city to build, even especially on our property and to do projects that we have, that they have at least a 20% goal of having Black and Brown people on the projects and having local participation. That means people who live in Miramar get to work on these projects. So that's also economically helpful to our community.
As a role model for young women and girls, especially those from underrepresented backgrounds, what advice would you give to those aspiring to leadership positions in politics?
Well, the first thing I would say is make sure you stay in school You know, get a good education. Whether you decide to go along to college or not, it's always important that you get all your education, whether it's from elementary, middle through to high school. And then from there, if you get a trade or go to college, education is important. In terms of trying to make your way into politics, there's different ways you can do it. You can go to school and learn about public administration. You can learn about government, or you can be an activist in your community, which is where I started as an activist, seeing a need in the community and addressing that need with local politicians, going up and speaking in front of the commission, galvanizing your community over an issue that you want to be addressed. And so those are other ways as an advocate. And then you can work your way into politics that way. And the way I did it also was to join forces with other campaigns, learn about how to run a ground campaign, learn how to win races, and then go into it for yourself.
Looking ahead, what are your priorities and aspirations for the future of your city, particularly in terms of promoting diversity, equality, and inclusion?
For me, I continue to push for diverse programming in our parks. Recently, we set about trying to be an autism-friendly city, meaning that folks on the autism spectrum and with other related disabilities shouldn't feel left out. And so we are training our staff to deal with people with disabilities. That's important for our staff to do, to make sure that we include all members of our community. We continue, as I mentioned, to do programming such as events that reflect the community, whether you're Hispanic, Haitian, Jamaican, whatever. We make sure we have something for everybody. But my future aspirations would be to, on a broader scale, to help more people, not just the people in Miramar. And so my goal is to be a Broward County Commissioner, where we oversee the entire county and particularly the district that I live in. So that's my ultimate goal, to make more of an impact in more cities and to reach more people. Miramar has 150,000 people. Broward County overall has like 1.9 million people. And so if you can reach those people, especially the ones in your district, with your ideas, with ways to make their lives better, that's what I plan to do.
Thank you for having me today. This was a pleasure. Thank you for everything. And hope I will see you next time.
Absolutely. It was a pleasure being here.
It's a beautiful city, and thanks for everything.
Thank you. Thank you so much. I appreciate you coming and interviewing me.
Thank you so much.
Take care.